Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders are facing a decision that, on the surface, seems straightforward but carries layers of complexity, strategy, and emotion. Quarterback Jayden Daniels, a player who has already made waves in his rookie season and captured the attention of the league as one of the brightest young talents under center, is currently navigating an injury that has left both him and the organization in a delicate balancing act. A dislocated elbow on his non-throwing arm has sidelined him temporarily. But the young quarterback's mindset has not wavered, and he has made it abundantly clear that being medically cleared will mean one thing to him: getting back on the field. In a season that has already gone sideways for the Commanders, now sitting at 3-8 and far from any playoff contention, Daniels' determination to compete reflects both the competitive spirit that made him a standout rookie and the challenge the team faces in managing his health versus the optics and long-term strategy for the franchise. The story isn't just about injury recovery, it's about how a young star in his organization handle adversity when the season has already slipped through their fingers. Daniels' injury, while significant, is somewhat mitigated by the fact that it affected his non-throwing arm. Theoretically, this means that, once cleared, he could resume full participation without compromising his mechanics, a key point that Washington's medical staff and coaching personnel have emphasized week to week. Designation currently keeps Daniels sidelined for the immediate matchup against the Denver Broncos on Monday night, and the organization is managing expectations accordingly. Reports suggest that a return in Week 14, when the Commanders host the Minnesota Vikings on December 7th, is considered a realistic target if all goes well in the recovery process. It is a nuanced approach that balances caution with competitive drive, acknowledging both the potential risks and rewards of reintegrating a young quarterback into live action after an injury. While the optics of rushing him back into games might worry some, internally the Commanders seem committed to letting Daniels dictate the pace, provided he remains medically cleared and fully capable of handling the physical demands. The decision-making process surrounding Daniels' return is far from cut and dry internally. There have been extensive big-picture conversations, weighing the pros and cons of bringing him back during a season where wins are scarce. One option on the table was the more conservative path, extending what could have been a 3-week layoff into 5 or 6 weeks, essentially using the remainder of a lost season to preserve the quarterback for future campaigns. But Washington has resisted that approach, signaling that, for now, shutting Daniels down is not in the cards. The logic is straightforward. He is a young quarterback who still needs live reps to continue his development. Missing games, even in a lost season, could impact the timing, rhythm, and chemistry that are critical for a player expected to lead the franchise for years to come. It's a philosophy that places immediate competitive opportunities alongside long-term player development, rather than viewing the season purely through the lens of wins and losses. Supporting Daniels upon his return is another key aspect of the team's planning. Wide receivers Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown, both of whom have battled injuries themselves, are expected to resume practice this week. Their return would provide Daniels with a more stable and reliable receiving corps compared to the patchwork lineup the Commanders have been forced to field for much of the fall. This, in turn, could ease the transition back for Daniels, allowing him to re-engage with a more complete offensive unit, capable of executing plays with efficiency and confidence. For a quarterback whose strength lies in his mobility, decision-making, and timing with his receivers, the return of McLaurin and Brown could be the difference between a cautious reintegration and an impactful comeback that reignites some excitement for the fan base in a season that has largely been disappointing. Yet, as with any high-stakes decision, not everyone is on the same page. Former Washington quarterback Robert Griffin III has publicly voiced his opinion that the team should take the safer route and shut Daniels down for the remainder of the season. Griffin's argument centers on protecting a franchise quarterback and, implicitly, the draft capital that might be gained if the team prioritizes long-term strategy over short-term glory. His viewpoint reflects a broader tension within NFL teams between immediate competition and asset management, especially when dealing with young, high-value players whose careers are just beginning. It's a debate that resonates far beyond Washington, highlighting a philosophical divide in the league about whether seasons that are effectively lost should still serve as opportunities for development. or if preservation of talent outweighs even the smallest potential returns on the field. The thin line that the Commanders are walking is emblematic of modern NFL management, balancing a young quarterback's competitive drive with medical prudence and long-term organizational goals is a task that requires careful orchestration, transparent communication, and a willingness to accept risk. For Daniels, the desire to play is rooted not in stubbornness, but in a mindset cultivated since his early days. As a standout prospect, compete whenever possible, seize the opportunity, and treat every game as a chance to grow. From the team's perspective, honoring that mindset while ensuring he does not aggravate an injury that could have lasting effects is a complex, almost high-wire act. Each decision, from practice designations to game day readiness, reflects an ongoing dialogue between player autonomy, medical advice, and strategic foresight. Looking ahead, the focus for the Commanders will likely hinge on the outcome of Week 13 practices, where Daniels is slated to return in a controlled setting to gauge readiness, even if the Denver matchup remains off limits. The December 7th Vikings game appears to be the most realistic window for a full return. Analysts and fans alike are watching closely, not only to see if Daniels can take the field, but to evaluate how the Commanders handle the optics and consequences of their decision. This isn't just a story about an injury, it's a story about a franchise defining its approach to player development, risk management, and competitive integrity in a season that has already tested their limits. For Washington, for Daniels, and for fans invested in the quarterback's journey, the coming weeks will provide clarity, drama, and hopefully the kind of on-field excitement that has eluded a team in search of its next chapter. The narrative surrounding Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders exemplifies the multi-dimensional challenges facing NFL franchises. When balancing health, competitiveness, and long-term planning, every week matters, even in a season where the playoffs are out of reach, because each practice, each game, and each decision contributes to the development of a player whose potential could define the team's future. Daniels' determination to return, the team's careful handling of his recovery, the impending return of key receivers, and the ongoing debate about preservation versus participation all intersect to create a story that transcends a simple injury update. It is, instead, a lens into the decision-making frameworks, philosophies, and values that shape modern football franchises. For fans and analysts, the weeks ahead promise to illuminate not only Daniels' resilience and talent, but also the Commanders' evolving identity in an NFL landscape that increasingly rewards prudence, adaptability, and the ability to manage young stars with both care and ambition. This is a chapter in Washington's journey, a moment where patience, competitiveness, and strategic thinking collide, and the outcome will offer lessons not just for this season, but for the seasons to come, as Jayden Daniels and the Commanders navigate the delicate interplay between present opportunity and future promise. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. Terry McLaurin, the star wide receiver, whose presence has long been a cornerstone for the Washington Commanders, has reportedly dropped a bombshell in the locker room, sending shockwaves through the franchise and leaving fans, analysts, and even rivals in a state of disbelief, according to sources close to the team. McLaurin issued a stark ultimatum that has instantly become the talk of the NFL community. If he starts, then this team doesn't need me in Washington. The cryptic comment, whose target remains shrouded in speculation, has fueled a firestorm of rumors and questions that are now dominating sports media chatter. Insiders claim that tension stems from what some are describing as a simmering clash over offensive strategy, personnel decisions, and the future direction of the franchise. For weeks, whispers of friction between McLaurin and certain members of the offensive staff have circulated, but few expected it to escalate to the point of a public declaration, even one as veiled and loaded as this. What makes McLaurin's statement particularly explosive is the timing and context. The wide receiver has been a symbol of consistency and skill for the Commanders, one of the few players who can change the course of a game with a single play. His connection with the quarterback has been a lifeline for the offense in crucial moments, and his departure, or even the hint of his departure, could send ripples through the locker room and fan base alike. Sources suggest that the ultimatum is not simply about playing time, but rather about a deeper disagreement regarding the hierarchy within the team, the offensive scheme, and perhaps the prioritization of certain players over others. The comment, "If he starts, then this team doesn't need me," is being interpreted by analysts as an unmistakable warning that McLaurin is willing to walk away. If the situation does not align with his expectations or principles, the ambiguity surrounding he in McLaurin's statement has only heightened the intrigue, with speculation ranging from a new quarterback acquisition, a potential rookie with buzz in training camp, or even a veteran player whose promotion threatens McLaurin's status as the undisputed leader on offense. Fans on social media have reacted with a mix of shock, disbelief, and even outrage, with trending hashtags and heated threads debating who exactly McLaurin is referring to. Some argue that the ultimatum signals a severe mismanagement problem within the Commanders' front office, suggesting that if a player of McLaurin's caliber feels compelled to make such a statement, the internal dynamics may be far more volatile than publicly acknowledged. Others defend McLaurin, emphasizing that elite athletes often demand the respect and conditions necessary to perform at their peak, and that the statement could reflect frustration over perceived unfairness or a lack of recognition of his contributions. Sports analysts have begun dissecting McLaurin's career trajectory, his influence on the team's playstyle, and the potential ripple effects of a scenario where he truly steps away. Comparisons have been drawn to other NFL veterans who issued ultimatums in the past, highlighting the high-stakes nature of such moves and the rare occasions when a star player actually follows through. Behind the scenes, team executives and coaching staff are reportedly in crisis mode, with urgent meetings and strategy sessions being held to address what some insiders are calling the McLaurin dilemma. There's talk of attempts to mediate, reassure, and even adjust lineup decisions to accommodate the star receiver's concerns, but details remain scarce. Sources close to the Commanders claim that McLaurin's influence extends beyond the field. His leadership in the locker room and his rapport with younger players have made him a cornerstone of team culture. Therefore, any hint of departure is not merely a personnel issue but a potential cultural earthquake, one that could reshape the Commanders' identity if not handled delicately. Some reports suggest that veteran teammates are quietly lobbying management to heed McLaurin's ultimatum, aware that losing him could disrupt morale and cohesion in ways that statistics alone cannot capture. The weight of McLaurin's statement is compounded by his reputation as a player who holds himself and others to the highest standard, meaning that when he speaks, the team listens, or at least should listen. Rumors continue to swirl about the identity of the player whose starting role triggered McLaurin's threat. Early speculation points toward a newly drafted wide receiver or a quarterback whose integration into the starting lineup could shift the offensive balance, thereby potentially diminishing McLaurin's role or altering the chemistry that has made the offense functional, if not spectacular, in prior seasons. Yet, other insiders caution against drawing premature conclusions, emphasizing that McLaurin's comment may also reflect broader frustration with organizational direction, play calling, or even public messaging from the coaching staff. Analysts have begun mapping out multiple scenarios, each with varying consequences: a trade request, a reduction in snap count, or a public confrontation with coaching personnel. The possibilities have made McLaurin's statement a prime subject for speculation, debate, and even conspiracy theories among fans who thrive on NFL drama. Media outlets are buzzing, with commentators dissecting every word of McLaurin's statement for hidden clues. Video segments are being analyzed frame by frame, looking for nonverbal cues that might suggest the seriousness of his declaration or hint at the identity of the unnamed he. Podcasts and YouTube channels alike are running deep dive analysis, often weighing McLaurin's past interviews, social media activity, and known relationships within the franchise. The broader NFL community is watching closely, recognizing that the ripple effects of this ultimatum could extend beyond Washington. If McLaurin does follow through, either by sitting out, requesting a trade, or taking another form of action, rival teams could capitalize on the situation, reshaping the competitive landscape. Conversely, if management manages to resolve the issue without losing their star receiver, it could be a testament to crisis management and the power of negotiation in modern professional sports, even among former players and coaches. Opinions are divided. Some argue that ultimatums are a natural part of a superstar athlete's toolkit, a way to assert leverage in a business where careers are fleeting and opportunities must be maximized. Others suggest that McLaurin is risking long-term reputation and fan support by issuing such a public, high-stakes warning. The dialogue has spilled over into social circles and forums, beyond the usual sports media, with fans debating not only the specifics of the Commanders' situation, but also broader questions about athlete agency, loyalty, and the balance of power between players and franchises in the NFL. Analysts note that the Commanders now face a complex decision matrix. Do they prioritize McLaurin's concerns to retain elite talent? Or do they proceed with planned personnel decisions that may risk alienating him? Every option carries significant consequences, both on the field and in the court of public opinion. As of now, the situation remains fluid, with every practice, press conference, and internal meeting potentially shifting the narrative. The mere suggestion that McLaurin might walk away has already injected a level of drama that few teams experience, turning ordinary team updates into must-watch spectacles. Fans are waiting for clarity, but insiders caution that the Commanders may be navigating a delicate balance, negotiating quietly behind the scenes to prevent a public fallout. Meanwhile, the rumor mill is in overdrive, with social media amplifying every tip, leak, and analysis, creating a feedback loop that ensures McLaurin's ultimatum remains the top story in NFL circles. Whether this saga resolves amicably, explodes into a full-blown conflict, or transforms into one of the most talked-about player-team negotiations in recent history, remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: Terry McLaurin has made it abundantly clear that he sees the stakes in Washington as higher than ever, and the entire NFL world is now watching to see what comes next. The tension is palpable, the stakes enormous, and the intrigue unmatched, making this one of the most gripping off-field storylines in professional football right now. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.